Okay. Wow. Well, apparently, even though it said that my microphone was connected, it was not this entire time. I just got a notification from Angela, who just arrived, to let me know. Thank you for coming in. uh, wow. Well, if you can hear this, good. That's the reason I'm here doing this. We're only halfway through the sit, but I guess it's okay. I will start again. And I already said the things I needed to say to get those thoughts out of the way. So now we're open to where we are right now. Let's begin again. Thanks for joining us here. Journey Home Meditation's morning sit. We are beginning again. And today's practice is going to be revolving around the breath again, and understanding the ways in which I have separated, and when I speak I right now, I can say we, the ways in which we may have separated our thoughts from our feelings in our body, and how the teaching of love everybody, it's a teaching I've been working on for a very long time. I was taught that very, very early in life. It's one of the first things that we learn, in Sunday school and in Bible camp and church as a kid, the teachings of Christ. Of course, there's hellfire and brimstone teachings, and there's the fearful teachings of, the punishments of God's wrath. But there is also the present teachings through songs and through Bible verses and parables of the simple teaching to love everybody. And it's one of the most difficult concepts to grasp in our thoughts, because there are so many possibilities for exceptions. When we think about it, we can find a million reasons that that's just a good idea, but not practical. But as I was sitting at the beginning of this practice, when apparently my microphone wasn't working, I was noticing that I was having a very difficult time falling into the breath. I was struggling to get away from the trap of thinking about something, and maybe even trying to use that pause, that few moments of breath, as a tool for figuring out. I just got to figure this one thing out, and then I'll be able to be present. But I wasn't opening or sharing that one thing with anybody. I wasn't processing with other people. I was holding it all and thinking, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to solve it. And then once I solve it, I'll be able to breathe easy. Once I have resolution to my problems, I'll be able to do the meditation practice. Once I, get this thing figured out, then I'll be able to be here. Just give me the time I need. And it's a trap. It's a trap. One, the conflict that I'm thinking about is not within me. The conflict is not, I'm not conflicted. There is a conflict. There's a conflict in my community right now. There's conflict in our world right now. There's conflict in multiple relationships that we all share. So conflict generally is described as disagreement or separation of two or more groups of people or persons, right? So the mere idea that any of us are going to solve these problems of our conflicted feelings and emotions and within our own heads, within our thoughts, is madness. One, it's full of hubris that I'm going to somehow solve the problem. Two, it's that the problem is the problem. The belief that the problem is the problem, not the pretext for the suffering of the relationships. And three, that it's somehow my responsibility, all on my own, to figure it out. And so we do this. Our minds can become really amazing problem solvers, and there are billions and billions of dollars industries that exist to have our brains solve problems, whether it's playing the Wordle or the crossword on your New York Times app in the morning, or watching a murder show where you figure out who the killer is before anybody else that's watching does. And I knew it all along. And it's gratifying. And we get this sense that my brain works really well to solve problems and figure out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. And all of those things that we weren't able to do in the times in our lives when we experience great struggle and strife and pain and trauma and aggression and violence. All of those conflicts that we weren't able to stop from occurring when we were children. All of those life or death choices that were made on our behalf that we didn't get to participate in. We are now thinking that I can do this in my mind. And even with a daily regular practice of bringing presence of body and mind and in the moment to the breath, the intrusive capacity for my thoughts is still present. There's no promise that that's ever going to go away. So then the practice is to fall back into the breath and go, there's that mind. And just acknowledge it, and then take 3 breaths and see if you don't feel deeply into that breath by the second or third breath, maybe even the first one. Coming with the acknowledgement. I sometimes teach people when they're beginning their meditation practice, especially, but because sometimes it's easier to teach beginners than it is to teach and work with somebody who has been practicing for a long time, because I know all that. I'm a much better learner when I know that I am beginner, and I always know I'm new here. I'm new. Then I can learn. Then I'm open. when I step into any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a father-son parenting relationship, a mother-son, whether I'm the son or I'm the father or whatever roles I'm participating in a relationship, when I come into it with anything other than the beginner's mind, anything other than I'm new here, then I start to commandeer and steer this, which is just another way of saying I start to manipulate conflicts, or things become teachable moments, all of that nonsense. It's adorable. It's adorable nonsense. It's the personality. It's the thing that sometimes makes us fall into places of love with one another, is that personality. But but still, the beginner in this practice may be more open to the concepts. And oftentimes the beginner will say, I've tried, I want to meditate, I'm trying right now, but how do you stop the mind from racing? How do you stop the thoughts from just coming? I just don't know how to do that. I just don't know how to stop those thoughts. Like, I don't think that this meditation is for me, because I do all the things, and then it's still, my mind is still racing, and I try to stop it, and I can't. And I say, there's a mantra for that. There's a mantra for that. And they sometimes get excited, like they're going to learn some ancient Sanskrit mantra in some mystical practice that magically stops the mind. And I say, and that mantra is, I can't stop my mind. And I go, what? I'm like, yeah, try it. Try just saying it out loud even. I can't stop my mind. I can't stop my mind. I can't stop my thoughts. My mind is racing. My mind is really busy right now. My mind is suffering. Try saying those things aloud. If you're having that kind of morning where your thoughts are just going to every other thing, see if you can close your eyes and take a couple of breaths. And as you're breathing outward, just say, I can't stop my mind. My thoughts are racing. My mind is busy. And then breathe. Did you notice that? Did you notice any shift? Even in right now, as I was taking those breaths and saying those things, I felt an opening into the presence with my body for even just those few breaths. And the reason I think that is conscious awareness and acknowledgement of my experience right now, bearing witness to what it is that I am suffering with, being present with what I am struggling with, and recognizing it, simply acknowledging it. That's enough. Even now, I feel the back of my neck relaxing, my shoulders relaxing. Now, I don't have the dopamine high from solving all of the world's problems. I didn't figure it out, the great mystery. Certainly, that conflict is still existing. Certainly, there is still more conflict to be had and more suffering will come. But now, when I come to the table, when I come to the relationship, I will be able to remember that there was a moment that I was suffering all of the possibilities, and I was able to acknowledge that struggle and then calmed. So now, when I come to the conflict, I can start by acknowledging the conflict, acknowledging the conflict in each of us, and just saying, hey, man, we are really suffering. We are really struggling here. I don't know how much practice I have with that in the midst of conflict with my loved ones, but certainly just the feeling that I have in my body, even in this moment. And this is something I've been working on and thinking about for years. But even in this moment, the feeling that I have is one of a larger openness, a vulnerability that is strong, a strong vulnerability. Like I am okay right now to be with my suffering and with yours. Yeah. And you're probably going to be really angry with me. And you're probably going to throw a fit, and I'm probably going to throw a fit. And there's probably going to be moments where we just want to walk away. But we don't have to if we can just acknowledge it right now. We get to, if we'd like to, if the best possible way forward is apart, then that's okay. It's a very large world for a reason, you know. But I think that in acknowledging that, that is a key to unlocking it, to untying those knots. So when it comes to love everybody, the teaching of love everybody, there's a million different ways that we want to rationalize our way out of that. The question is, yeah, okay, sure, love everybody, but what about? And then there's that blank that we just put in whatever monster is under our bed, or whatever the worst possible thing you can think of a person doing. And then we say, what about Hitler? What about Trump? What about Charles Manson? Whatever it is. You know. And we find all of these things that we want to struggle with. Yeah, I can't do that. I guess I'm not a good enough person to love that. Okay. Then acknowledge what you're feeling in that moment. And that's okay. I don't think I can love everybody. I don't think I can love everybody. There's your mantra. And just to be a little clever, you're right, because love doesn't exist in our thoughts. Infatuation exists in our thoughts. Regard exists in our thoughts. Nostalgia, memories, hopes, dreams, futures, all of those things exist in our thoughts. All of those ways in which we think about love exists in our thoughts. But our thoughts come and go, and our thoughts aren't always correct, and our thoughts are penetrable and malleable by the world. Love doesn't come from your thoughts. That's not the source of love. And this includes the notion that who you think a person is or who you think you are is a part of that struggle. And I'm not a big fan of hypotheticals, but there is some room for hypotheticals. In crisis, when you see a person in harm, you see a car strike a tree, and you stop your vehicle and you go to that vehicle and you see a person who's pinned inside and they're suffering, and you can open that door and you can help this person. Do you stop and say, well, I need to know your politics and I need to understand your relationship to uh, your romantic partners throughout time? Are you a good partner, or are you kind of a scumbag? Are you a violent person? Are you aggressive? I need to know all of these things about you before I can begin to help ease your suffering. No, that's not the instinct, and that's not the practice. That's not what we usually would do. You would just help. And that's almost across the board. And if not, if you're not a person who does that's okay. Then this analogy isn't for you. Then this example doesn't work for you, and that's okay. There's 1,000 other ways we can hypothetically get to the understanding that love is not a thought. Love is not it doesn't come with an application process. Love is this other place where I understand intrinsically that my wellness in this moment is tied up in your wellness. It's not codependent, it's interdependent. I don't need you to like me for me to feel okay, but what I do need is you to not be suffering needlessly if I have something to help to ease that suffering. Because if I have something, a resource, a thing, a moment, a breath, some silence, a few words that would ease your suffering, not take away your pain, ease your suffering in that moment, and I choose not to do that, I suffer. I suffer that. I suffer that vindictiveness. I suffer that that now my participation in this is one of, if not adding to, at least trying to ignore your suffering, and that ignorance is going to affect me on a deeper level. But if I can contribute to the easing of suffering, and I do, then my suffering is eased as well. That's what it is to have an interdependent relationship of wellness. Your wellness and my wellness are bound together. Because if your wellness isn't a concern, then when your unwellness comes upon me, I will feel it. And the same is true from within me. If I'm unwell and I'm not tended to and tending to it, then I'm going to exert that unwellness on others. That's just a fact. So this is what it means to love everybody. It doesn't mean you like anybody. It doesn't mean that you approve of people's actions or disapprove. It doesn't matter. The beginning of love everybody is just the recognition that we're in this right now. And part of that means to recognize inside of myself, I'm having a difficult time loving everybody. It's the same thing. Like, I can't stop my thoughts from racing. I can't calm my body. And just saying those words, recognizing that that's what is right now as truth for you, is a way to move it through your body, because you're not judging it, you're not struggling with it. Therefore, you're not grasping onto it, because there's a part of you that is experiencing that for a reason, and it needs to be allowed. And once the allowance is there, we start to open. I had a couple of poems today, but we are running later on time because of the volume snafu. But let's just get to them anyway. Let's just do them. This is the first poem that I picked out this morning to share. Part of the thing that kind of brought me into this practice today of understanding how to love something that's not there. And that's what I'm talking about, essentially. How to love the calmness when I'm a nervous wreck. How to love when I am steeped in separation and judgment and disgust. This is Wendell Berry. And this poem is For an Absence. When I cannot be with you, I will send my love. So much is allowed to human lovers. To watch over you in the dark, a winged small presence who never sleeps, however long the night. Perhaps it cannot protect or help, I do not know, but it watches always. And so you will sleep within my love, within the room, within the dark. And when restless you wake and see the room palely lit by that watching, you will think, it is only dawn, and go quiet to sleep again. It is only dawn, and go quiet to sleep again. I love it. That when love is present with us, it becomes so ubiquitous that we don't think about it. That's pretty good, especially when we're talking about a practice of not being trapped in our thoughts, to have a love that's so ever present that we don't have to think about it. It's only dawn. And we go right back to sleep. Beautiful. Well done, Wendell Berry. And then so we're doing Appalachian Elegy, bell hooks, poetry in place, and we are going from number 1 all the way through to 66, and today we are on number 23. So this is the we just passed the first third. We're entering into the second trimester here. Bring Buddha to rest home in Kentucky hills, that outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt-teaching tradition. Be balanced, know loving kindness in suffering, rejoice in the oneness of life, then let go. Carry nothing on your back, travel empty as you climb steep mountain paths. I want to read that again. Having a difficult time with the lighting. Let's try it again. Bring Buddha to rest home in Kentucky hills, that outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt-teaching tradition. Be balanced, know loving kindness in suffering. Rejoice in the oneness of life, then let go. Carry nothing on your back. Travel empty as you climb steep mountain paths. It's I don't know what this is about, but it's so often when I open this book now, I just expect that it's going to be exactly about whatever it is that's happening inside of my practice for that day. It's bizarre, but for me, in the reading of number 23, I see so much that is relevant to conflict. and the ways in which I approach conflict and the ways in which we approach conflict culturally, as a community, as a society, as a people. Bring Buddha to rest home in Kentucky hills, that outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt teaching tradition. This is the Bell Hooks is talking about. This is a prayer. This is a prayer. This is a way to put forth into the world this opening to, the Buddha obviously here is not speaking of the person, it's speaking of the presence of awakeness, the presence of equanimity, of non-judgment, of understanding, and of peace, of calm, those things that the Buddha represents. And it's saying that outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt teaching tradition. Now, you've got to remember, this is the Kentucky Hills, this is Appalachia, where Bell Hooks, a black queer woman, is from. And she's saying we don't need a guilt teaching tradition. Now, if there's anybody in Appalachia, there's so many people in Appalachia who could justify easily teaching guilt for their pain, for their suffering, teaching the tradition of guilt and shame and blame. They could justify it easily. Black people, Native people, poor people. But in this poem, Bell Hooks is saying a prayer, saying, bring the Buddha here, bring the loving light, so that we can end suffering. And that's what it is to love everybody, so that there may be a light outside each window. Each window. From the pastor to the pedophile to the priest to the poacher, whatever it is that starts with P, I don't know. To every person, bring that light outside of the window. Thanks, Bell Hooks. And thank you for being here, for your patience. I must go now. Hari Om.